Okay, so here again, I want to go back and take another look at this group known as the Canadian Drug Policy Coalition, which I believe is very clearly just really a front group for the push towards legalizing all hard narcotics like crack, meth, basically heroin, anything like that. They want these things legalized, and they want people to be able to get them, be able to do these things freely. And this is all part of the depopulation agenda, and also the Orderoutofchaos Masonic agenda, which is creating all these this manufactured chaos so that they can eventually bring in their own solutions. They always utilize the Hegelian dialectic to do this. If you're not familiar with that, that is problem, reaction, solution. So they create the problem. The people ask for some sort of solution because of the problem that these people have created. Usually there's heavy financial backing behind it to create these problems as well. And of course, in this situation, obviously the amount of money that is involved in the drug trade and drug trafficking is, seemingly limitless. Again, the Hegelian dialectic comes heavily into play here. And this organization, Canadian Drug Policy Coalition, is, in my opinion, very, very clearly just a front group to push these agendas. And what they do is they always have to wrap these things up in this false sense of empathy. So whenever they have these front groups, they have to make you think they're doing something that's for a humanitarian cause. And nothing could be further from the truth here. The reality is it's about literally trying to pave the way for people to be able to freely kill themselves. First, before we look at a little bit more from this organization, which is a very nefarious organization, what they're trying to do serves the Orderoutofchaos agenda. It also serves the whole situation with these occultists who want to bring in this new age where drug use is so common, as was the case within what is predicted in Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, where all of these people are just drugged out of their minds, and to the point where they can't see all of the things that are going on around them. They've become completely numbed to the chaos that is surrounding them. And of course they use, I believe it was called Soma that they use in Brave New World. But again, a similar situation, that's what they want to achieve here. And we're already seeing all of these Orwellian measures being implemented. So a combination of 1984 meets Brave New World is really what we're seeing. The only difference is in 1984 you had obviously the threat of people being killed and violence being used. They're not using violence yet with what they're doing here. This is more everything's being done through deceit, and in order to do that they have had to put corrupt people, many of them members of Masonic lodges, into positions of influence. So I'm going to show another example of a police officer who's been put into a position of influence to push this destructive agenda and to basically lie like a sociopath, as they always do when it comes to these things. But first, let's take a look at this commercial from the 1980s. Okay, so let's just take a look at this here. This was what they were promulgating, even in the mainstream media, in the 1980s. Now you can look at this and look at how dramatically things have changed from then to now.
Is there anyone out there who still isn't clear about what doing drugs does? Okay, last time. This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Questions?
Okay, so you see that there, and that was a commercial that was widely, put out there in the 1980s and widely disseminated, and that was the message that they were sending then. Now, what you see instead are these celebrities who they put out, most of whom are, on these hard drugs, and of course many of the musicians are also on these hard drugs, and they use the music industry to glamorize these things. And promote it and normalize it. So obviously within the hip-hop industry, trafficking, narcotics, pimping, things like that, have all become normalized through a gradual progression of putting that into the music to subconsciously program people just to normalize these things and to take the stigma away from them, when even a few decades ago these things were seen as just absolutely harmful and evil. So we're going to go on here and take a look at another one of these criminal Masons, Freemasons, who, because I have no doubt that that this person is a Mason, and he has been put into a position. I don't say he earned his position, because they just insert these people into these positions. Now, previously we looked at a video from the Gatineau police chief here, who again he's saying help not harm, lying like a sociopath, to try and push this normalization of hard narcotics, promoting these agendas while trying to make it seem like he's doing it for humanitarian causes, but clearly lying and just being told to say these things, right? And it's all about using these people, these puppets who they've placed into the police, to gradually brainwash the public into thinking it's a good thing that all of these deadly narcotics, such as crack, meth, heroin, become freely available. Because that's really going to be a wonderful society. You've already got people, dying all over from these things, and they're allowing them to inject freely at these safe injection sites, which they claim were created for humanitarian purposes to save lives, but in reality, they're killing people by doing this. And they know that. So it's a total inversion. It is the occult inversion of the truth. Everything that they say is inversion. So we're going to take a look at this individual here, Inspector Bill Spurn, police officer calling for change. This is a police officer from Vancouver. Now, if you've seen any of the videos of what the streets are like in Vancouver because of these epidemics with hard drugs, which they will talk about as if they just happened out of the blue. The police will tell you they're surprised about this, and it just came out of nowhere, right? They won't say anything about why the drugs are being permitted to come into the country, and like, for example, why is it that they were able to stop hard drugs from coming into the country just a few decades ago, but now, despite all of the sophisticated technology and resources that Canadian law enforcement associates have at their disposal, you expect us to believe that they can't stop hard narcotics from getting into the country? That's utterly ridiculous. But that's what they'd have you believe. They're surprised that it's getting in. They don't know how it's getting in. Yet back in like the 60s, 50s and 60s, you could completely keep it from getting in because it wasn't allowed to come in. Because you didn't have intelligence agencies like CSIS ensuring that it gets into the country. And then, of course, the police working on the street level to ensure that the narcotics are freely distributed and protecting criminal murderers and drug dealers. So you got to know when you're listening to these people like this, you got to take everything that they say is inversion. Everything that they say is an inversion of the truth. So when they say they're trying to help people, they're really trying to kill people. And that's no exaggeration. That's a fact. Let's take a listen to what this psychopath who has been inserted into his position to push this murderous agenda that is degrading and debasing the country has to say about this. And let's listen to the lies that he spews out here. Sorry, we can improve the quality here. Okay, so again, this is this Vancouver police officer. Again, they're showing you the problem here. Obviously, there are significant problems in Vancouver with hard drug use. So they're going to show you the problem, and you're going to hear they're going to play this really soft music to tug on people's heartstrings to make you think that they're doing this out of compassion, which is completely ridiculous, and it is a total inversion of the truth. Like everything that is put out nowadays with these organizations. Again, this is a front group for the distribution of hard narcotics, Canadian Drug Policy Coalition, and they use a fake empathy, saying that they're trying to help people, but in reality, they want order out of chaos, and it's about the depopulation agenda. And these useful idiots who they put into these positions in the police are just saying what they're told to say to push the agenda.
In Vancouver, I've spent my entire career, with a few exceptions, in drug enforcement, and I've never seen a crisis that is this bad.
Right. So that can be established, but what he's not going to tell you is how it got that way. He's not going to say anything about how the drugs just managed to slip into the country, just made their way in, when they could stop them from coming in, and they actually used to work towards stopping them from coming in with federal law enforcement just a few decades ago. Now it's very, very obvious that is not being done, despite the fact that they have much more sophisticated technology and much better resources to be able to deter these narcotics from getting in. It's obvious that they're being allowed to come in, And this person here is just told to say these things to tug on people's heartstrings and to use emotional manipulation to try and normalize this stuff. There's nothing normal about it, and it is killing people, and he wants that, and he's a psychopath, and that is why he has been inserted into his position. Take a look.
I started my career in the downtown east side in Vancouver in 1996. That was during British Columbia's first drug overdose crisis. And back then, there was no harm reduction and a lot of enforcement.
So this is key here. Again, this is the same thing that the psychopath Gatineau police chief was saying in his video as well about this, was that placing the emphasis on harm reduction. And the reason they're doing that is they want to promote more of these safe injection sites, and it's all about eventually paving the way to legalizing all of these substances by just saying, well, they're going to do it anyway. Well, if they didn't allow the narcotics to get into the country, they wouldn't be just able to just do it anyway. So this is all being enabled by these people. And this man is a psychopath who has been put into his position, and he is being told to say these things, to normalize these agendas. And again, there are shot callers at the top, but at the end of the day, it's about legalizing all of these hard narcotics, which are killing people.
I was just about to leave the downtown east side to go on to another assignment in the drug squad in 2001. Things like needle exchanges were starting to appear. There was a lot of talk about Insight coming online in the downtown east side, and I was against that.
Now, I want to point something out.
Because I thought
take a look at to arrest everybody. Take a look at that. Take a look at the hand sign that this Vancouver police officer, who was again working in the drug enforcement department previously. Take a look at this hand sign that the officer is making here. Okay, that's a pretty common well-known hand sign to be associated within Masonic circles. Let's take a look at this now. Okay. Now all of these people are making that identical or similar hand sign. And these are all people who have been sent in to infiltrate the churches, as Masonry has been used to infiltrate all of the churches, and these are all false preachers, these wolves in sheep's clothing, and they all just happen to be making that same hand sign or a similar hand sign to what this guy here, this cop, is making. Again, just like I said, they do these things to send a message out to their Masonic brothers, and they're letting them know what the real, while he goes on here and lies and tries to exploit empathy, he's sending a message to let them know what his true intentions are. And that's why that sign is being shown there. No question about that. And it's not some coincidence that he's just placing his hands that way. Anyone who tries to make that argument, there's way, way, way too many people who you can see doing this. Even with your fake targeted individuals online, a lot of them, you can see them doing that. You can literally look at hundreds upon hundreds of pictures of the celebs doing that same hand sign, clearly with intent. So anyone who tries to say that's just random is not being truthful.
And when I came back to the downtown east side in 2011, there were all sorts of harm reduction initiatives that had taken place, like needle exchanges. Insight had been around in the
Notice the soft music they're playing again. This is all to make it think like he's doing something that's compassionate. Nothing could be further from the truth. This guy's a psychopath, and he is pushing the depopulation agenda, and he wants all hard narcotics to be normalized. And they use front groups like this to do that. And because he's a police officer, you're supposed to look at him and think that somehow he has credibility. Look at the crimes that these psychopaths are involved with. Look at their involvement in organized harassment that is of law-abiding citizens that is provable beyond any doubt. Look at their involvement in staging fake events in coordination with the media that is also provable beyond any doubt. And if you think they have any credibility, yeah, they absolutely do not. But let's get back to it.
I wasn't spending my entire shift responding to overdoses.
Again, there's that hand sign. He's obviously doing that intentionally.
I think
that's to send a message out to his Masonic brothers.
To see harm reduction work.
And also to let the people know, the people who've told him what to say, that he's following instructions and saying what he's told to say. Because the instructions for this hard drug, legalization of hard drugs, are being given from up above. These people just take instructions and say what they're told to say, and they're put into the positions as puppets, just like our politicians are.
And that changed my life. Last year we had over 1,500 people die in BC from overdose deaths.
Well, maybe you wouldn't have had that if you had people in high-level law enforcement stopping the narcotics from coming in and stopping the murderous drug dealers who profit from the misery of others. Maybe if your officers were doing their jobs and trying to stop that, you wouldn't have had that. But of course, you want those deaths and you want depopulation, and it's all about your Masonic Order out of Chaos agenda. But you have to mask it behind a veil of false empathy.
It's taken a crisis.
Everything is inversion with these people. Absolutely everything is an inversion of the truth.
Show that our drug policy doesn't work. It's taken a crisis to show that we need to change.
Okay, so this is just like the police chief from, they said the same thing at the end of the video with the Gatineau police chief. They said, Bill Spurn is openly supportive of a safe supply of drugs and harm reduction for people affected by addiction. The Gatineau police chief was reciting the same script that he was told to recite, and it is all about pushing this depopulation agenda, order out of chaos agenda, the end goal being all hard narcotics freely available for anyone who wants to use them. And what kind of a society will you have then? Well, if you think things are bad now, it's only going to get worse. These people with libertarian views who spew out these lies that they're told to say that if you legalize the drugs, that'll stop crime. Absolutely ridiculous. The people profiting from these things are not going to go out and get 9-to-5 jobs if you cut off their ability to earn an income by trafficking narcotics. They're going to move on to other criminal enterprises. So it's not going to prevent anything like that. That is an absolutely ridiculous argument. And most of these libertarians, like Ron Paul, who are put out to push that nonsense, are just Masons anyway. He envisions a future much different from the reality that we're living in now. Well, yeah, no shit. By the time 2030 comes, how bad are things going to be when Agenda 2030 reaches its climax?
For me, would be providing safe supply to people that need it.
Exactly. And that's the end goal. And notice the Gatineau police chief said the same thing in the other video I showed about him. And this is what they're doing. They're having these puppets who they've placed into positions of influence read these scripts and say these things and say they're doing it for humanitarian purposes, because they care about people. It's because they want people dead, and it's the Order Out of Chaos agenda. It's true that no one's forcing these people who are addicts to take these drugs, but these people know still that if the drugs are available to them, they're going to do it, and it's going to lead to a more widespread usage of them. Even with people who had never done these things, you're going to have people starting to experiment with these things who might not have ordinarily even tried them. And it's going to lead to even more and more addiction and death. He knows that fully well. That's why he's told to say these things.
Tomorrow, to me, would mean that nobody got arrested for being addicted to drugs.
Well, you're not doing your jobs anyway. You're allowing drugs to flow freely, so it's not like you're even doing anything to prevent this anyway now. So that's utterly preposterous. Because as it is now, you've got the police pretty much allowing drug dealers to operate freely, as long as people like this guy here get his cut of the drug money. And rest assured, he does as well.
I felt really alone.
These are the people working to destroy democracy and to create order out of chaos in this country. Same thing is going on in the United States and in all of the Five Eyes countries. But here it is. The corruption within law enforcement is just at the next level here. Much worse than in any of the other Five Eyes countries, I believe.
Enforcement, but I can tell you that over the years, as this crisis has spread across North America, I'm not the only policeman that feels this way.
No, of course, you got a lot of them, because they're all told to push this agenda, and you do what you're told. And that's all it is. You follow instructions, just like a military guy. In fact, he might even have a background as a military guy. Some of these medals look like they might be possibly from that. And if you see this here, that looks strikingly similar, that symbol there, to the Order of the Eastern Star Masonic symbol, which is the female Freemason group, the Order of the Eastern Star. That symbol looks very similar to that. But again, it's very obvious. You can see the hand signs that this guy was making, exactly the same as these people here, all of them here. Coincidence that they're all making that same hand sign? I think not, right?
Law enforcement agents, because they've had a chance to absorb what they've seen, and the drug crisis is starting to affect their jurisdiction.
The drug crisis which you and the people above you created. The people in law enforcement created this, while the intelligence agencies ensure that it gets into the country. People in law enforcement ensure that it is freely available, and you protect murderous criminal drug dealers, and you also utilize these people to participate in the criminal harassment and organized stalking operations, which the police are also a part of, working in unison with the police to harass truth speakers and whistleblowers and law-abiding citizens. That's what these people are about. This guy's just another sick sociopath who's been put into his position to spew out lies and push inversion of the truth. Everything that he said is an inversion. They're doing this so that people will die. That's what it's about. It is order out of chaos, and all of the people who have been inserted into these prominent positions are absolute sociopaths, and those are the people who...
And then the light bulb goes off in their head. If you want to...
Look who else is involved in it here, eh? Surprise, surprise. Look who's all coordinating this, because they care so much about people too, right? With their criminal stalking and the things that they were involved in with the that thing, you know, that big thing that went on worldwide. I won't mention it here because this is going on YouTube, but you know what I mean, right? Their involvement in that, and their involvement in pretty much all of these staged events as well. Yeah.
House people and pay a lot of money. The two best places to do that are emergency rooms and jails. If you're paying 32 cents for a hydromorphone...
Yeah, so in that case, by your logic, why don't we just let every violent criminal out of jail? like you're already doing that anyway, right? There's not much by way of keeping these people locked up who are violent sociopaths and criminals. You're just allowing them to walk freely and traffic narcotics and abuse people and participate in organized harassment operations. So why would you want to keep them locked up, right? Because that would be enforcing the law. And why would somebody whose job is to serve and protect want to actually enforce the law, right? No, that would be ridiculous.
To give to somebody that's much more cost effective than paying thousands of dollars.
Again, listen to the music to tug on people's heartstrings.
Window of the car that they've smashed, and have two policemen go arrest that person and put them in jail. If we treat this collectively as a healthcare issue, we're going to keep people alive. We're also going to lower crime because we're not going to force people to commit crime in order to get treatment.
So if you saw that other video I made about the Gatineau police chief, this is almost an identical script that he was given to read. Almost identical. And again, it's pretty obvious that they're just told to say these things, and the reasons why are equally obvious.
So this is a win-win for society.
Oh yeah, it's a win-win for society when you have people, more and more people running around drugged out of their minds on meth, crack, and heroin. It's a win-win for society. Things are going to get really good, right? And the police will just stand by and allow that to happen the way they're standing by and allowing crime in general to happen right now, and targeting and stalking law-abiding citizens and truth speakers, right?
The police can't arrest our way out of this, and we also can't solve it by ourselves.
No, because you can't solve it because you have people in law enforcement ensuring that the drugs get into the country and are distributed. So you're not even working to solve it, and your intention is not to solve it. Your intention is to have this be freely available, and that's all there is to it. It's very clear what the agenda is. It's depopulation. It's the order out of chaos Masonic agenda, and they've put all of their corrupt criminal masons into positions of prominence to execute these plans.
Let's not wait until it's your child or until it's my child that becomes involved, and then it's too late.
Now let's contrast what he was saying there with this again. Let's listen to this one more time. Contrast the message that he's giving there with what they were promulgating, even in the mainstream media in the 1980s. Okay, contrast those two messages, and you can tell what's going on.
Is there anyone out there who still isn't clear about what doing drugs does? Okay, last time. This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?